Hey guys, this is the Infernoman, and we do budget, jank, fun, and Magic the Gathering Arena. Now, before we get into it, if you like the content that I put out there, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit me up with a like, or even better, subscribe to me. It really does show people that they care about what I do. If you have any questions, comments, stuff you'd like to see discussed, or if you want to talk to me directly, you can @ me on Twitter or chat directly with me, as I do stream 2 to 3 times a week on Twitch. Sometimes it's Magic, sometimes it's other games. Either way, a visual link for those are going to be up on the screen right now, and I will have direct links in the details below. Now that we have that out of the way, let's get into this deck. And for today's deck, we're talking about Mono Green Mutate. This deck uses no rares or mythics, so it's easy to put together, but it's more complex than what you see at face value. We're trying to build a huge creature that will generate value with each mutation on a body that either can't be hit or can hit with minimal resistance. Now, as always, here's how we'll break this down. We'll cover the creatures in the deck first, then we'll cover the non-creature spells, the land base, if applicable, the sideboard. We'll have a match with Sparky to give you an idea of what the deck is trying to do, and at the end, if you like this deck, a way to upgrade it. Now that we know the game plan, let's begin. To begin, the deck only runs 22 creatures with a focus on mutating very specific targets. So to begin, Almighty Bushwag, 1/1, Bushwag for 1 mana, Trample. For 4 mana, Almighty Bushwag gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Now I know someone out there is going to turn off this video right now because I have this card in the deck, but hear me out. This is actually a good mutate target if our opponent has no instant speed removal, and it can pump itself and already has Trample, which is going to be relevant in a little bit, and I'll explain why. Next, Paradise Druid. 2 mana, 2/1 Elf Druid. Paradise Druid has hexproof. As long as it's untapped, you may tap it for adding 1 mana of any color. It's a mana dork for our other targets to mutate onto in case our opponent does actually have removal. Glowstone Recluse. 3 mana, 2/3 Spider with reach, and 4 to mutate. When this creature mutates, put 2+1/+1 counters on it. It's our first mutate creature. It grows whatever it mutates onto, and having reach on it means no creature can fly over us to evade it. Migratory Greathorn for 4 mana, a 3/4 beast, with mutate for 3. When this creature mutates, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Our second mutate creature that helps us get lands out of the deck, and a 3/4 body actually is just a really nice bonus on it. Vinemare for 4 mana, 5/3 Elemental Horse with hexproof. Vinemare can't be blocked by black creatures. Not much to say except we're using it because it has hexproof. So if we lose the Paradise Druid, we have a backup creature to mutate onto. Also, it's kind of hilarious and sometimes relevant to have the ability to be unblockable by black creatures. And finally, Auspicious Sterix. For 5 mana, a 6/6 Elk Beast with mutate for 6. When this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile X amount of permanent cards, where the X is the number of times this creature has mutated. Put those permanent cards onto the battlefield. Our last mutate creature, but our most important one. Once we mutate with the Sterix, we can begin to really go off. The demonstration we'll show you in a little bit will show you what I mean. If you, however, cannot afford to mutate for whatever reason, as in you need a blocker or you just need something out there to trigger something else, the 6/6 body for 5 is just solid already. Alright, well, that's all I got for creature, guys. Let's go ahead, let's talk about the other spells. We will have 18 non-creature spells in the deck. Starting with Reclaim the Waste, 1 mana sorcery with a kicker of 3. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. If the spell was kicked, search your library for 2 basic land cards instead of 1. The kicker ability ensures that this has some value even in the mid-game to pull lands out, but otherwise we play this early to thin the deck and just get our land drops. Explore, sorcery for 2 mana. You may play an additional land this turn and draw a card. Like Reclaim the Wastes, we play this early to get our lands on the field and we begin mutating faster. Ram Through, instant speed for 2 mana. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. It's our only removal in the main deck. Its pseudo burn ability is actually a sweet bonus if we can get creatures out with trample, and that next card actually will help us with that. Garruk's Uprising, a 3 mana enchantment. When Garruk's Uprising enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have trample. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. We actually really want the trample ability the most on this card, but if we play this once we have a big creature out or two, we can begin to draw more cards very quickly. I know some have pointed out that we don't have that many big creatures to begin with, but we do actually have the card that can make them bigger, which is Heraldic Banner, a 3 mana artifact. As Heraldic Banner enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+0. You may tap it to add 1 mana of the chosen color. This will give our creatures a bit more power, and it's a mana rock to a degree. So in a budget deck like this, we really do need all the help we can get. So that's why we have it in there. All right, let's go ahead, let's talk lands. So as far as the lands are concerned, we only have 20 in the deck, 18 forests and 2 Hayshop Oasis. Hayshop Oasis is a desert land with tap to add 1 colorless. You can tap it and pay 1 life to add 1 green, or you can pay 3, tap it, and sacrifice a desert. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Activate this ability only at any time you can cast a sorcery. The land base looks very low for this style of deck, but we have many ways to fetch out lands, so this amount actually does work out for us. Not too often you'll need the Hayshop Oasis ability, but it works in a pinch if you need a pump before a swing. Well, that's pretty much it for the lands, so time for the sideboard. Our sideboard is a mix of cards that get rid of issues that we normally can't deal with in the main deck, so as always, you know, what I always tell you guys, adjust your sideboard based on the meta. So then, with that, we will begin with Blossoming Defense. 1 mana instant speed, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains hexproof until end of turn. It's here in case you need more protection and a little bit of pump. 4 copies of Chainweb Arachneer, a 1 mana 1/2 spider with reach. When Chainweb Arachneer enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature with flying and opponent controls. You can escape it for 5 mana and exile 4 other cards in your graveyard, which means when Chainweb Arachneer escapes, it comes out with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. This helps take out flyers, it's a decent mutate target, and if it gets blown up, we can escape it to bring it back. Soul Guide Lantern. 1 mana, artifact. When Soul Guide Lantern enters the battlefield, exile target card from a graveyard. You may tap and sacrifice the Soul Guide Lantern to exile each opponent's graveyard. Or you can pay 1, tap, and sacrifice the Soul Guide Lantern to draw a card. It's our graveyard hate of choice for this deck, and we can draw a card in a pinch. Finally, Reclamation Sage. 4 of those. 3 mana, 2/1 Elf Shaman. When Reclamation Sage enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Basically, it's our artifact and enchantment removal card on a body. That's all we need it for. And that's pretty much it for the sideboard, guys. So, what do you think comes next? That's right. We'll be sparring with Sparky right now to show you a demo of this deck. Okay, and here we go again. We are playing against Sparky with Mono Green Mutate. Let's show them how this deck works. Okay, so your opening hand, of course, should have some kind of early creatures, or at least some way of fetching out lands, or at least some kind of mutate option. And we actually have creatures and we have mutate. So let's go ahead, let's keep this. Depending on what kind of deck your opponent is using, you could either go with the Bushwhack to go big with a trample ability, or if you need something to protect, you can go with a Paradise Druid for the time being. Remember that you don't really want to attack early on with your creatures, unless if you know for sure your opponent doesn't have the proper removal. So in this case, obviously since we're playing Sparky, we actually have the options here. So we're going to try to do a little bit of both to show you what this deck is trying to do. Knowing Sparky, they're probably going to have some way of pacifying the Bushwhack. So what we're going to do instead is we'll play Paradise Druid. And no attacks. We'll keep Bushwhack here as kind of like our backup mutate option. But this kind of plays like a little Bogles. We'll let that go. Now that we know an Angel of Vitality is out, it's probably going to be best if we mutate with the Recluse first. But we're still a little behind on mana. So instead, let's Migratory Greathorn. Put it over. We'll get a Forest out. So this helps us thin the deck. No attacks. And it still has hexproof, which is great. So this means we can't be a target of anything they're going to try to throw on us. So expect them to throw out a ton of creatures like they just did. Angel of Vitality is going to get through, which will be a little annoying, but this is why you have ram throughs. And also you do have the Recluse. The Recluse, of course, has reach. So we do have some options here. How you want to do this is going to be up to you. I think we're just going to want to go big on this. Let's put under. Triggers off. All right, we're growing. And nothing yet. At this point, Bushwhack is going to be able to start pumping its ability up now that we have plenty of lands. The Angel can't get in anymore. Okay. Knowing Sparky, of course, they're going to try to be all cheeky about all this stuff. Let's go ahead, let's block the Angel. And while they're mostly tapped out, we can also do this as well. So Target. Take out one of the Shrine Keepers. So there you go. Little combat trick there. Angel's gone. All right. Keeping the field under control. Okay, we got another ram through, which is fine. And you also have a Vine Mirror. So some nice options here. Let's put this down. Obviously on green. There you go. Everything's got a little bit stronger. Vine Mirror also benefits from this. So now it's a nice 6-3. No attack still. Sparky's probably just going to waste time trying to just helplessly fight. Which works for us. You're going to have opponents that are going to try to force their way through. Okay. We're out of targets, but in instances like this where you don't have anything to burn your mana on or cast, remember that the Bushwag also, you can pump it. So we can make it from a 2-1 into now a 5-4 if we wanted to. But we're going to wait on that. Remember, this is, again, a kind of deck you're not going to... You either go full-on aggro and smash through, or in this instance, you're going to have to play the waiting game. So it's not going to be the most exciting thing, but you will eventually win the long game if you have the patience. So we'll just do this. Hopefully they don't have a combat trick. They do. So with that, let's ram through. Get that out of here. We want to keep our creatures alive because we actually don't have that much going for us right now. I know somebody probably is going to point out, you had enough mana to pump up the Almighty Bushwag. I know. Don't worry. It'll be a thing. All right, here we go. Great. We got Garruk's Uprising. So this is what we wanted to do. This is the reason why also we're playing the banners as our pseudo lords. So the pumping here will trigger off Garruk. So we can slowly refuel our hand. Not too bad. Explore. Draws us another card. All right, Heraldic Banner again. I know, totally not exciting, but this does give us a little bit more power to swing with. So now we can smash in for a bigger damage. But remember, we're also a little low on life too. So this deck's downside is we don't have a way of keeping our life total high. So we have to play it slow. Okay, another Garruk's Uprising actually is decent. So at the very least, we can get some card draw. All right, it's just a land. We'll wait a little bit longer. I feel like I'm going to have to edit this down for you guys, just that way we can just get to the point of the deck. Don't worry, we're going to get there. Okay, here we go. Asterix. This is one of your payoffs for the mutate. So let's mutate onto the big pile here. Go over. Unfortunately, this means that Garruk does not trigger off from this, even though it is another creature. You're only getting out of it you're just adding to the creature, so that's why you're not triggering off Garruk. However, you do have the option. You can either play it as a creature, you could have gotten Garruk to go off, but in this case, I just wanted to mutate to show you, of course, what the point of the deck is. So let's see if we get some payoffs from this. So, get a land. We get a lot of stuff out. There we go, and now Garruk triggers off. So now you're seeing what the deck is trying to do. There we go. Not too many big hits here, but that's okay. This just helps us get back in the fight. Let's explore. Draw another card. All right, another Bushwag. That's cute. And, yeah, sure, you know what? Let's play it. Why not? We'll pass. Okay, now we definitely have a big enough board where I think we can smash in pretty quickly here. Knight's Pledge. Okay, that's fine, Sparky. That doesn't really bother us. If we get any more big creatures like here, the Great Horn, you can either now go putting it down and you can draw some cards, or, again, you can mutate onto the pile. So now you kind of have some options here. The good news, again, was you ramped out everything, plenty of mana to work with, but now that we've got several critters on this, I want to get another hit. Only warning, again, is be aware of how many cards you have left in your deck. We're past the halfway point, so we're definitely going to do this again. I want to go big, so let's do it. We're going big. Okay, this is going to be a huge hit. All the lands out of our deck. Lots of thinning. Boom. Now we're making our comeback. And we get to draw a couple cards in the process. It's tempting to keep going, but let's just put down a couple more creatures. All right, draw some more cards. Woo! Do you think Sparky's had enough yet, everyone? Let's just put it down for a creature. I think we're going to deck ourselves out here. So let's just go ahead. Let's finish this game. So Green, of course. All right, everything now is massive. And now that we have trample, we can also pseudo burn out our opponent here. So let's go ahead. Smashy, smashy. Down to 9. Let's just swing. We got enough creatures, and they all have trample too. There you go. That's Mono Green Mutate for you, everybody. Wow. It's a slow deck, but once it goes off, it goes off. All right, well, hope you enjoyed the demonstration. Let's talk about upgrades. So we're actually going to have to break this down 3 different ways for upgrades. First off, we're going to go with the most practical to the least practical. So the most practical option for you here, if you want to stick to mono green, is just go Stompy. That's probably the easiest option for you guys. And the good news is, however, Mono Green Stompy has a ton of big creatures if you're willing to spend a lot of rares and mythics. So rather than go over every single card in detail, again, I have a lot to talk about here, so let's just kind of break it down to the most simplest terms. Going over based on converted mana cost, Pelt Collector and Allosaurus Shepherd are going to be great. The Pelt Collector just gets bigger as you put out more of your bigger creatures. Allosaurus Shepherd is going to be a sideboard option for you to make sure that counterspell decks don't try to hose you. Throw this down on turn 1, and they're probably going to auto-concede. Just kidding. I'm sure some of them won't, but they're probably going to be really annoyed that this is out on the field. Nothing really in the 2-drop slot except for Scavenge Ooze. This is just a fantastic card. Gets rid of those graveyard shenanigans, and it gets bigger on its own, and it fixes one problem that we had with the original deck, which is we have no life gain. As for the 3-drop slot, you have a couple options here. It really is going to be dependent on how you want to build your Stompy deck. If you're more of a landfall happy person, Kazandu Mammoth is fantastic. If you're dealing with more removal, Garruk's Heartbringer is going to be hosing those mono black control decks. Same with Ronos the Indomitable because it's indestructible and also can be a decent pump ability for one of your other creatures to smash through. Lovestruck Beast is just a general catch-all. 2 for 1, where you can create a 1/1 white human creature token. And of course, the beast itself is a pretty sweet blocker, even if it can't attack. In the 4-drop slot, I would probably recommend Shifting Ceratops, can't be countered, Protection from Blue, which is also great against those control decks. Again, Sultai is a thing still, so just FYI. And also, you can give it a choice of either Reach, Trample, or Haste. Your choice, pick your poison. Questing Beast. I got nothing to say about this card. It's fantastic, scary, it does great things. Use it if you got it. And if you are more concerned about dealing with instant speed removal, Nightpack Ambusher is going to be a nice way to go wide and also kind of mess with your opponent in the sense that it kind of forces them to either time their removal better, or it's a decent way of going wide when your opponent has nothing on the field. 5-drop slot, Cavalier Thorns. Solid. It does mean that it forces you to mill some cards. However, being able to have a really solid body of 5/6 with reach is great in the current metagame right now. And also when it dies, if you exile it, you can put a card from your graveyard on top of your library. So whatever you milled out, whatever gets thrown to the yard, you have a chance to bring it back on your next turn. And finally, one of my personal favorites, Carnage Tyrant. 6 mana for a 7/6 dinosaur with trample, hexproof, and it can't be countered. In other words, you throw this down when the control decks are trying to laugh at your face, and then bring out your big old dino and laugh at their face. That's it for the creature package in the most conventional sense. Let's go over some support cards. Now, as far as the non-creature spell package to upgrade your Mono Green Mutate deck into more of a traditional Stompy, again, what you're seeing on there is what I would recommend in general. I don't want to go over every single one of these cards because I still have yet one more part to this that I will talk about, but let me just explain some of the generals. So if you're worried about trying to protect your creatures, Heroic Intervention is a great option for you. If you want to maintain a good amount of card draw and fixing, Vivian Champion of the Wilds and Lifecrafter's Bestiary actually both of these work really good together, so take consideration for using both of those. If you want to focus more on the ramp, then use Nissa Who Shakes the World. It's a great card. Even if you don't focus on ramp, it's just, it really is good. I mean, I get annoyed when I have to fight this, but it's great. I can't stress that enough. Garruk is going to be more better for you if you want to have bigger creatures who want to ensure that they can get that damage through with its +1 ability, or you can sometimes make a couple extra beasts in a pinch if you need to maintain a good board presence. Great Henge is going to be awesome in the support. Again, it fixes one of the problems that the main deck had, which was we had no life gain, but being able to tap it for some mana is fantastic. I wouldn't worry too much again about the mana cost, as we already know. If we're going with a big green creature package, Great Henge is going to come out for much cheaper. I'm pretty sure you guys otherwise know the rest of why this card's solid. And finally, Turn Timber Symbiosis. Yes, we're going to count this on the sorcery side, not so much the land side. That's not to say, of course, you want to ignore this as a land. Mostly, you definitely want to play this for its sorcery, which is, of course, as you see, look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. That alone means that your big creatures are going to get out for a really good value. Even if they're the cheaper creatures, as you see, if the card has a converted mana cost of 3 or less, it enters with 3 additional +1/+1 counters on it. That's great no matter what. So whatever gets onto the battlefield is going to be big and going to be a threat to your opponent. That's pretty much all I got for you guys in terms of the support. I'm going to talk about one more option for you. And the last consideration for considerable upgrades is going to be dependent on if you really want to commit to Mutate. Again, I'm not saying that Mutate is a bad mechanic. I'm just saying it's a difficult mechanic to work around based on the fact that Ikoria was only 1 set. Now, for the downside, you notice that some of the more practical options in the Mutate package means you're going to have to splash into other colors. That already means that you're going to have a better mana base. So fair warning on that. But if you're willing to commit, then cards like Polywog Symbiote or Pouncing Shore Shark, Parcel Beast, Sea Dasher Octopus are good. Otherwise, if you want to go splashing into black, Dirge Bat and Insatiable Hemophage are going to be decent for you. If you want to stick to just green, then your really only option is going to be Gem Razor. But this is actually a really good rare card. As you can see, mutating for 3 is pretty good, and every time you do, you can destroy an artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. So that alone helps you fix one of the other main problems with the deck. After all I've said, I would definitely recommend, though, go with the Mono Green Stompy package if you want to go for a more committed, ranked, full-on competitive upgrade. If you don't care about ranks or anything like that, you don't care about trying to get to Mythic, and if you just want to have fun, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with going with the Mutate package. But again, this is why I'm giving you guys a lot of options here. It's really up to you. Don't feel like you have to stick to one way or the other based on my suggestions. I'm just trying to give you guys as many options out there. That's the beauty of this game. Now, before I get to my final thoughts, I know someone out there is going to say this. Infernoman, you didn't talk about elves. I know, that is another mono green option you have, but you kind of notice that the main deck doesn't really have a way of upgrading directly into elves, so that's why I didn't want to talk about it. The other reason why I wasn't going to touch on elves is Kaldheim is only a couple weeks away as of the posting of this video. So what that basically means is I'm going to hold off on elves and see what options are available out there, and maybe if we do have enough reasonable options, I might actually consider going back and making a mono green elves deck, or it might be, I don't know, green black elves, depending on how it looks. But that's why I'm going to hold off on elves for a little bit. If you do like elves, though, and you do want to see maybe me do a possible, oh, I don't know, a budget deck on that, just hit me up for that. But otherwise, we'll wait and see on elves. And that is Mono Green Mutate. Wow, this actually was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, so thank you for hanging in there with me, everyone. So tell me, what do you think? Are you a fan of the Mutate ability? Do you like Stompy style strategies where you can have big creatures smashing for huge damage? Just let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from all of you. One side note, in case you haven't noticed, I have slowly begun to expand into other games down the line. Recently, I have been streaming, and I've been enjoying playing Nintendo games again, so expect playlists to be changed to reflect this. But aside from that, thanks again for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe if I helped you out, or at least entertained you. And until next time, when in doubt, be sure to jank them out. Later!